I have a lot of records to review in preparation for this presentation. And after reviewing those records of our work on pesticide-free parks and sustainable landscaping, I was able to determine 4 keys to securing funding, community buy-in, or other support for your sustainable landscaping project. At least 4 keys for Midwest Grows Green that I think can be applied to any park district, municipality, school district, or company. And I hope that you can apply some of these keys into your own work upcoming. The first thing and the most important key is expressing commitment to sustainable landscaping. If you're not passionate about sustainable landscaping, you're going to have a very tough time getting interest from funders, your community, buy-in from your community, or interest from other stakeholders. So I'm going to talk heavily about how you can express your commitment to sustainable landscaping by both action, but also by your mission statement and vision. Then staff expertise is also important. This doesn't mean you need to have a soil scientist or turf scientist on your staff. It just means that you're looking for professional development opportunities like this current session or sessions offered by other nonprofits or associations. And you're regularly reading up on the literature surrounding sustainable landscaping. You are, as well as the rest of your staff. And then third, I'm going to go into having in-depth record keeping and reporting. I think this is really important. I'm going to talk at the end of this presentation about our technical assistance program, which does a significant amount of record keeping and reporting for grants, but also just reporting to the community of what we're doing and being transparent about what we're doing for each of our projects through that technical assistance program. And then finally, we have our partnerships with nonprofits. You can partner with Midwest Grows Green's technical assistance program, but I also brought on 2 other successful nonprofits in the sustainable landscaping sector. First, Jim Kleinwachter from the Conservation Foundation and his Conservation at Home initiative. And then Mackenzie Feldman from Herbicide Free Campus, who has worked with a number of campuses across the US to transition away from herbicides on those campuses. So they'll talk about their programs and how you can partner with them for a project, a sustainable landscaping project. So hopping right into how to express commitment to sustainable landscaping. Remember, it's all about having passion. If you're not passionate about sustainable landscaping, it's going to be hard to get any interest, whether that's from your community or a funder to promote or support your project. And so Midwest Grows Green really helps with expressing your commitment because it's a recognizable brand. You see that orange logo and you're supposed to intuit our motto or our message, which is sustainable green spaces for people, pets, and pollinators. And so how we've done that through Midwest Grows Green is we actually developed a strategic plan last year. And Leah is sharing that strategic plan out in the chat. So you can download it and look it over as I go through this presentation. And that strategic plan, it does a couple of things. First, it defines the problem that we're trying to address. And you know, when we're defining the problem at Midwest Grows Green, we keep track of current events, news, and trends. So we can talk about the problem with the funders, but also talk about the urgency that is needed to address this problem. It's not address it 20 years down the line. It's we need to address this problem this year and right now. Second, we attend professional development sessions. We pursue certifications, and we read through a lot of the literature around sustainable landscaping so that we can identify the most effective solution for our sustainable landscaping project, whether that be a turf grass system, a bioswale, a prairie, whatever. We are constantly staying up to date on the new advances in sustainable landscaping to make sure that we have the right solution for the project that we are pursuing. And then we identify that solution clearly to the funder or to the community. And then finally, we just put this all into writing. We define the problem, we identify the solution, and we develop a mission statement, a vision, and some objectives and metrics to measure our progress towards achieving both that mission and vision. And we do that in our strategic plan for Midwest Grows Green. But if you're from park district, school district, municipality, or company, you can do that with an IPM policy or natural lawn care policy, or even an organic landscaping policy. So starting with that, defining the problem. If you've attended my presentations before, you might have heard my elevator speech that I do at the start. Almost every presentation, I started off something like this, that turf grass is our nation's largest irrigated crop, and it covers more than 40 million acres in our nation, which is more than triple the amount of acreage as devoted to irrigated corn. And as you can imagine, we use a lot of synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, and water to maintain those 40 million acres. And looking at pesticides alone, the US lawn and garden sector applies nearly 90 million pounds of this product each year. The National Wildlife Federation found that the average urban homeowner will apply up to 3 times more pesticides per acre on their lawns than what farmers apply on their crops. And it's this high use of pesticides that has far-reaching impacts for our children, our pets, our pollinators, and our water quality. So that is the elevator pitch that I do during my presentations. It's 1 minute max. But I also do this pitch in my proposals to different grants and everything like that. And it's 1 to 2 paragraphs. I clearly state what our problem is: high use of pesticides, as well as fertilizers and other inputs in the lawn and garden sector. That's what we're trying to address. And then I add on to that in my presentations and my proposals, the urgency needed to address these problems. And to express the urgency, I bring in current events. A lot of times I'm mentioning pollinator health because it seems like every week, unfortunately, there's a new story about how pollinators are in decline. And one of the contributing factors, of course, is the insecticides, as well as all pesticides that we're applying onto our landscapes, specifically neonicotinoids, which thousands of studies have found are neurotoxic to bees. So I will bring up that issue a lot, depending on the interests of the funder or the community that we're trying to work with. The other one is glyphosate is big in the news right now. In 2015, the International Association for Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as a probable carcinogen. Glyphosate is the most sold herbicide product out there in the world. And I will often bring up the case study of Mr. Johnson that you can see in the image to the right. He sued Monsanto, which is the producer of multiple glyphosate products. They are now owned by Bayer, so Monsanto is no longer, but they are the producer of Ranger Pro as well as Roundup. Mr. Johnson was using Ranger Pro, and he accidentally exposed himself to Ranger Pro twice, and he developed terminal non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So he sued Monsanto for the damages caused on his life and for misleading the public on the health and safety of their product. And district court in San Francisco ruled that Bayer must pay Mr. Johnson $289 million for the damages caused on his life. That has been since reduced to around 89 million, I believe, or maybe 79 million. I don't know the exact figure, but thousands of lawsuits have filed this, as well as a lot of bans and restrictions in multiple communities, as well as even, I think, the state of New York has banned it from the use on their properties. So we're seeing a lot of new legislation, a lot of new restrictions, and coming up this year and into the future. So that tells you how urgent it is that we have to come up with viable and safe alternatives to glyphosate. So looking at pollinator health, looking at glyphosate, we are expressing that this is an urgent issue that we need to address today, not 20 years down the line. And that helps get the interest of funders as well as communities that they need to start working on this this year, not punt it into the future. So once we've summarized the problem and really emphasized the urgency of addressing that problem, then it's time to move on to identifying the solution, which in this case is sustainable landscaping. And more specifically for Midwest Grows Green, it tends to be natural lawn care. And we define natural lawn care as a systemic approach that refrains from using synthetic chemicals and focuses on building healthy soil, deep roots, and strong shoots to support healthy, resilient turf grass. Now, we developed this definition after hearing from many different practitioners, as well as landscape managers from park districts, school districts, and municipalities during our lawn and land forum. So we heard a lot, and I continue to refer to the Lawn and Land Forum and its website, lawnandland.org, in my proposals as well as my presentations, because what lawnandland.org does really well is that it captures synthetic pesticide reduction success stories through text, visuals, and recorded interviews. And so when communities see, when they see these case studies on lawnandland.org, they can understand that our solution that we're proposing is easily replicable in other communities and the communities that we're trying to work in. So it kind of strengthens our message around that solution. And I just want to say, it's not just lawnandland.org that has these resources. I know for a fact, Herbicide Free Campus just came out with a resource of other campuses that are having success reducing or eliminating their synthetic herbicide use. And it's a pretty good resource, and I'm sure Mackenzie can talk about that during her presentation. And Conservation Foundation has a number of different resources of installing native plants with success. And a lot of other nonprofits have these case studies that you can review and incorporate into your proposals, into your presentations, into your community engagement. So I highly encourage you to look for these resources surrounding sustainable landscaping to help identify your solution. So once you have defined the problem and then identified that solution to the problem, it's time to put everything into writing. Circling right back to that strategic plan that Leah shared in the chat, you'll see us put our commitment in writing through three main sections. First, we have our mission statement that tells people why we're pursuing sustainable landscaping. Next, we have our vision, which tells people how much area we want to devote to sustainable landscaping. And then finally, we have our objectives and metrics to help measure our progress towards both the mission and the vision. So starting with the mission, MGG's mission is to educate and empower citizens to take sustainable landscaping action that reduces harmful runoff into our waterways, protects the health of our most vulnerable citizens, and reduces negative impacts of pesticides on non-target species such as pollinators. So at the start, you can see our solution. We're educating and empowering citizens to take sustainable landscaping action. At the back end are our problems that we're trying to address: reduce harmful runoff into our waterways, protect the health of our most vulnerable citizens, and reduce negative impacts of pesticides on non-target species such as pollinators. It's actually a diverse amount of problems that we're trying to address, and there's a reason for that, right? Because people have communities, funders. First, funders have their priorities. Foundations will have their funding priorities, and so we can go to funding priorities for water quality, pollinators, as well as human health. But if we're working with communities too, they also have their interests and they have their priorities. I know we have a community out in Minnesota that is more concerned about pollinator health, and that's why they've gotten involved in pesticide reduction. But we have a couple communities out here in the greater Chicago area that are more focused on the human health and child health aspect. So that mission statement covers both of those interests. And then we also have some watershed protection partners and everything like that. So we can address that harmful runoff into our waterways. Next, every good mission needs to have kind of a long-term goal so that we can track how we're getting towards our mission. And that has to do with our vision statement, which is to make all public and private parks, playing fields, and outdoor landscapes in the Midwest, organic by 2030 for Midwest Grows Green. So it is a very aggressive goal for us. But I encourage you, if you're representing park district, a school district, or municipality, to also aim high with your vision statement. For a park district, it could be something similar. Make all your parks organic by the year 2030. If you could also look at a specific aspect of your management, like I want to reduce our glyphosate use by 90% by the year 2025. Always put a year on it so that you have an end goal, and try to make it an aggressive goal so that you can continue to move forward in the sustainable landscaping, organic landscaping space. To help achieve our vision and mission, we then set out our objectives and our metrics. And for Midwest Grows Green, we have 3 objectives. First, we're going to identify sustainable landscaping through our Green Shield Certified for Landscapes, which I'll talk about at the very end in the second portion of my presentation after Mackenzie as well as Jim. Second, we're going to teach sustainable landscaping through our Lawn and Land Forum. And then finally, we're going to implement sustainable landscaping through our technical assistance program that I'm going to cover in just a little bit. So here's our annual metrics for those three objectives. First, for identification, we're going to have 3 Green Shield Certified for Landscapes approved companies each year for a total of 27. Second, we're going to teach 2 spring webinars and 1 fall workshop each year through the Lawn and Land Forum. And then finally, we're going to implement 10 GSC for landscapes, approved landscapes each year for a total of 90 by the year 2030. So just a recap of the 4 keys, and this was just expressing commitment to sustainable landscaping. Spent the most time on it because I believe it's the most important part of securing support for your sustainable landscaping project. But I'm also going to talk about staff expertise, in-depth record keeping and reporting, and partnerships and nonprofits, just very briefly through the lens of our technical assistance program. Because I think the technical assistance program brings all 3 of these aspects pretty well together. First off, it's a partnership program with other park districts and school districts and municipalities. So we are working right now with the city of Elgin in Illinois, the Clarendon Hills Park District in Illinois, the city of Lake Forest in Illinois, the River Forest Park District in Illinois, and now Shorewood, Minnesota, through our technical assistance program. And we're helping each of these communities or local authorities transition highly trafficked sports and recreational fields or just highly trafficked parks away from synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. We provide our services in 3 phases. The first phase is our IPM and natural lawn care audit, and that is led by myself as well as my colleague Leah McSherry. So we have policy expertise as well as marketing expertise that we're adding to technical assistance program, or TAP for short. And that audit looks at authorities, all their mowing practices, their fertilization, their aeration, their overseeding, as well as their weed control at all their parks. And then we make recommendations how to shift your time and resources towards the natural management of your most highly trafficked or highest priority parks. So how to manage these parks without any synthetic pesticides and fertilizers by taking away mowing or fertilization from your lower prioritized parks and shifting that towards the management of your highest priority parks. So that's the audit. It gives some background information for phase 2, which is our 3-year sustainable landscape management plan. And that's when we bring in the expertise from our soil scientists and turf scientists. We have 2, Vitas Papadinskis and Alec McLennan. They will visit 1 to 2 parks. They'll take soil tests to see if there's any nutrient deficiencies in those parks. They will look at the weed pressure to see if there's any underlying soil quality conditions. They'll look at the turf grass density and health. And then they'll also assess the compaction. And from all this assessment from the site visit, they come up with a 3-year management plan that refrains from using any synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. if you follow all of our recommendations from that plan. And then finally, phase 3 of TAP is just implementing the recommendations from both the audit and plan. So I'm just going to go through a brief case study of this work. And this is a look at Elgin, Illinois. It's in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. And we got about a 3-acre stand of turf grass to work with. And you can see from the aerial in the basin right here, there's already some black dots. That's basically standing water throughout the year at this park of Lord's Park. We want to address that because the standing water is unsightly. It can give off some noxious smells. It can also be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. And so to address it, we have to look at the rest of the park. And we looked at the west and east slopes. And as you can see in the 2 images to the bottom right, there's a lot of gravel in this soil. There's not a lot of turf grass. There is some weeds, but still not a whole lot of weeds. It's just basically bare soil. And that's an indication to us that we're dealing with severe soil compaction because of the gravel and everything like that. Grass can't grow there, but not a lot of vegetation can grow there. So our hypothesis is that rainwater is falling on the east and west slopes, but it's not infiltrating the soil. And so it's just going into that basin. And we're continuing to see some flooding, and we don't want that to happen. We want to capture rainwater on the east and west slopes, and we want to grow grass on the east and west slopes. So we did some further assessments. This is a soil compaction assessment. We have a device that you push into the ground, and it measures the resistance to the tip in pounds per square inch. So about 300 PSI is considered root limiting. And you can see in the basin, that device went around 21 inches into the soil before it started to feel any type of resistance. So not compacted at all, but that's mainly because it's saturated with water. So not too surprising. And then the bare soil areas on those slopes, well, that device only got 3 inches before we hit some compaction. So that just confirmed our hypothesis that we were dealing with severe compaction. We also took soil tests and once again confirmed it. In this soil test, the light brown is a little bit deficient. Dark brown is very deficient on those nutrients, and the basin tends to have more nutrients than the east and west slopes. So that's telling us that the nutrients are running off into that basin and being captured in that basin. We don't want the nutrients to run off in the basin. We want to capture those nutrients on the slopes. And to do that, we decided to rake up the gravel about 6 inches deep and then apply about 120 cubic yards of organic compost and overseed that compost on those slopes with just a turf grass mix that you can see in the image to the left already starting to pop out after a week. And after a month, the turf grass has established here at Lord's Park. No synthetic pesticides, no synthetic fertilizers, and kids are playing on this field about a month and a half later. So this was all work done last year, and we're excited to see the results of this park this year as we're continuing natural management, pesticide-free management of this area. So that's just the kind of partnerships that you can work with MGG. If you want to partner with MGG in our technical assistance program, please visit our website at bit.ly/MGG and caps, assistance and uncaps. There's a couple more things that we do as opposed to just that management plan. We do quarterly meetings to troubleshoot any issues that might happen with the park, see if we can get any help you with getting compost top dressing, new grass seed, organic fertilizers. We also provide stipends, small stipends for product purchases for the natural management of these areas. And then we provide a significant community engagement support. So you can get buy-in from your community. We do signage like you see on the right. We do press releases, social media, as well as presentations and community engagement events. So if you want to learn more, please visit bit.ly/MGG and caps, assistance and uncaps. I will